Paws and Clues. As evening descended on the bustling city, its skyscrapers casting long shadows that merged with the twilight, the hidden inhabitants of its streets began their nocturnal lives. Among them was Whisker, a cat whose once luxurious gray fur now bore the stains and scars of street life. The tip of his ear was clipped, a relic of a forgotten fight, and his eyes, though bright, held a touch of melancholy. Whisker was a creature of the city's shadowy corners, surviving on the fringes, far removed from the pampered life he once knew. In a cramped apartment building that seemed almost to sag under the weight of its own age, Mia and Jamie faced their own struggles. The threat of eviction loomed over the family, casting a pall of despair as palpable as the chill in the air. Mia, with her rebelliously black hair, bore responsibilities beyond her years, while Jamie, her 10-year-old brother, clung to the hope that somehow, despite everything, things would turn out all right. On this particularly brisk evening, as they trudged home through alleys lined with the day's forgotten refuse, their path intersected with that of Whisker. Drawn by an unknown impulse, perhaps the scent of vulnerability that matched his own, Whisker decided to follow them. His feline grace belied the harshness of his life, each step a silent testament to his resilience. The siblings noticed their new shadow as they neared their building, their hearts momentarily lifted by the sight of the scruffy cat. His appearance, far from the pristine pet ideal, resonated with them, a fellow soul battered by life's harsh winds. "Hey there," Mia softly called out to Whisker, who paused and regarded her with a wary but curious gaze. Jamie, moved by a kindred sense of recognition, reached into his pocket for the last piece of his sandwich. Kneeling, he offered it up with a gentle hand. "You look like you could use this more than me," Jamie whispered, his voice a mix of empathy and cheer. Whisker, taken aback by the gesture, approached slowly. The warmth in Jamie's eyes, the soft tone of Mia's greeting, felt alien yet achingly familiar. It had been years since anyone had looked at him with anything other than disdain or indifference. He hesitated, torn between his instincts for caution and the emerging desire to trust again. "You're the most beautiful cat," Jamie continued earnestly, his words simple but sincere. At that, something shifted within Whisker. The sincerity in the boy's voice, the absence of any pretense, reached him deeply. He hadn't been called beautiful in years, and part of him wondered if he could believe these kind humans. But as he took the food, letting the flavors and the unexpected kindness wash over him, a tentative hope began to blossom. This small act of kindness from the siblings, treating Whisker not as a street nuisance, but as a creature worthy of care and respect, marked the beginning of an unexpected bond. In Whisker's world, where survival often depended on remaining unseen, the attention and appreciation from Mia and Jamie were rare gifts. As he stepped into the light of their doorway, accepting their unspoken invitation, a new chapter in their lives quietly unfolded, one where each of them might find the strength and support to face the challenges ahead. After bringing the clever, charming cat at home, the siblings knew he needed a name as unique as his personality. They sat around the kitchen table, the cat purring contentedly in Mia's lap, as they brainstormed. "Look at his ear, it's all bruised," Jamie observed, gently stroking the cat's clipped ear. We could call him Bruiser because it looks like he's been in some battles. Mia scrunched her nose. That makes him sound like a bully, not the brave survivor he is. What about Dusty? I mean, look at his fur. It's not exactly pristine. Jamie laughed. Dusty Bruiser? Sounds like an old cowboy or something out of a Wild West show. As they giggled, Mia chimed in from across the room. How about Shadow? He did appear out of nowhere, almost like a little shadow in the night. Jamie added, or Bandit? He's sneaky and managed to steal our hearts pretty effectively. Mia and Jamie looked at each other, considering the options. The cat, meanwhile, seemed more interested in Mia's shoelaces than in his ongoing naming ceremony. As he playfully batted at the laces, his long whiskers twitched with each movement. Mia snapped her fingers, a smile spreading across her face. What about Whisker? Look at his long whiskers. They're almost like he's wearing a disguise. Plus, they denote wisdom and intelligence, don't they? Jamie grinned, watching the cat's antics. Whisker it is. It suits him. He's like our little wise man, guiding us on this crazy life adventure. Whisker, the wise and wonderful, Mia declared with a laugh, lifting the cat slightly so he could acknowledge his new name. Whisker meowed, as if in approval, settling more comfortably into Mia's lap, his whiskers twitching proudly. Yeah, Whisker, you're officially one of the family now, Jamie said, reaching over to give the newly named Whisker a gentle pat. As the sun settled below the skyline, casting a golden glow over the city, Mia and Jamie prepared for what they had playfully dubbed Operation Makeover. Their target, Whisker, who had unwittingly become the centerpiece of their latest adventure. Okay, Jamie, we got the shampoo, the towels, and most importantly, the treats for after, Mia listed, lining up the items like a general preparing for battle. Remember, the goal is to make him look like he owns the place, not like he's been dragged through it. Jamie giggled, holding up a bottle of pet shampoo. He's gonna be the fanciest cat in the block. With everything set, they approached Whisker, who was lounging on the windowsill, watching pigeons with a king's indifference. At first, he seemed to appreciate the gentle brushing they started with, purring softly as Mia ran the brush through his fur. But as they transitioned towards the dreaded bath, his demeanor shifted from relaxed to alert. The bath was, predictably, a comedy of errors. Whisker, upon realizing the betrayal of water, transformed into a dervish of claws and splashing. Mia and Jamie, though determined, couldn't contain their laughter as Whisker executed a particularly agile escape, leaving them soaking wet and the bathroom in disarray. Mission slightly failed. Jamie gasped between bursts of laughter, wringing out his shirt. Mia, wiping water from her face, smiled. He's clean, though. And look at him. Indeed, post-escape, Whisker's fur, fluffed out and drying, made him look regal, if a bit indignant. The children couldn't help but laugh, marveling at how Whisker, even in his disheveled state, carried an air of dignity. Like a lion, Mia declared proudly, as Whisker preened himself, perhaps agreeing with the sentiment. That evening, as the laughter from their bathing escapade faded, another debate emerged. With bedtime approaching, both siblings wanted Whisker to sleep in their room. Mia argued her case with the promise of the quieter environment, while Jamie tempted Whisker with the comfiest blanket. Sitting equidistant between their rooms, Whisker seemed to weigh his options. Mia and Jamie watched eagerly, each hoping to claim him for the night. Then, with a stretch and a nonchalant yawn, Whisker made his move. First, he stepped towards Jamie, causing a small cheer from the boy. But halfway there, he paused, turned, and strutted into Mia's room, his tail high in the air. Laughing, Jamie called out, "Hey, no fair. You can't just keep changing your mind." Mia stuck her tongue out playfully at her brother. "Looks like he can." Whisker's antics became a nightly ritual. Some evenings, he'd start with Jamie, only to switch to Mia's room halfway through the night. Other times, he'd settle decisively on one choice, leaving the other sibling feigning outrage. Their gentle bickering and laughter filled the apartment, softening the edges of their daily struggles. After the laughter of their evening antics had faded, the siblings began to settle down for the night. The apartment was quiet, save for the soft hum of the city outside. Whisker, now somewhat accustomed to being the center of attention, curled up on the living room rug, his eyes slowly closing. However, the calm was short-lived. As Mia walked past the pile of wet towels and tools from their earlier bath time adventure, a pang of reality hit her. The walls of their small apartment, usually a background to their daily lives, now seemed to close in on her. Her thoughts drifted to the eviction notice that had come last week, a stark reminder of their precarious situation. Mia slumped down beside Whisker, her fingers tracing gentle patterns in his now fluffy fur. The emotions she'd been holding back all day surged forward. Tears welled up in her eyes as the weight of their circumstances settled around her. "What if we have to move, Whisker?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "What if we can't take you with us?" Jamie, who had been picking up around the room, noticed his sister's distress. He sat down beside her, placing an arm around her shoulders. "We won't let that happen," he said firmly. "We'll figure something out. We always do." Whisker, sensing the shift in mood, lifted his head and nudged Mia's hand with his nose, offering his own form of comfort. It was then that Jamie noticed something peculiar. Beneath the couch, partially hidden by a dust ruffle, was a piece of torn newspaper. The word treasure was visible among the fragmented text. "Hey, look at this," Jamie said, retrieving the paper and smoothing it out on the coffee table. The article was ripped, but parts of it spoke about historical landmarks in the city and rumors of hidden artifacts lost over time. "Do you think Whisker is trying to tell us something?" Mia wiped her eyes, her interest piqued despite her earlier sorrow. Could there really be a treasure? Whisker meowed softly, as if in affirmation, and pawed at the newspaper, his actions deliberate. "Maybe it's not just a game," Jamie mused aloud. "What if Whisker knows where the treasure is? Like, maybe he's been around the city enough to find clues we can't see." The possibility seemed far-fetched, but it was enough to spark a new sense of purpose in Mia and Jamie. The siblings looked at each other, a mix of hope and excitement brewing between them. If there was even a slight chance that a treasure could solve their problems, it was worth pursuing. "Let's do it," Mia decided, her voice stronger. "Let's follow these clues. Let's see where Whisker leads us." Determined, they gathered the remaining pieces of the newspaper, trying to piece together any information that might lead them to the treasure. Each fragment, each word Whisker touched seemed to hold potential secrets, guiding them toward an uncertain, yet thrilling path. The night deepened around them, but inside that small apartment, a light had been kindled. With Whisker as their guide, Mia and Jamie felt ready to face whatever challenges came next, the bond between them fortified by shared purpose and the mysterious promise of adventure that lay in the whispers of a cat who had seen much and wandered far. The calm of the evening was shattered by a loud, aggressive banging on the door. Mia and Jamie froze, the fragments of newspaper still clutched in their hands. Whisker, sensing the sudden tension, darted behind the sofa. Mia cautiously approached the door and opened it to find Mr. Carlson, the owner of their building, standing in the hallway. His presence was imposing, his face set in a stern expression that spelled trouble. Mr. Carlson, the owner of several aging buildings in the neighborhood, harbors grand ambitions to demolish them and sell the land, eyeing the potential riches beyond the meager rents they currently yield. Of small stature and corpulent, he dresses in what might charitably be called disheveled chic, often appearing in mismatched and worn-out clothes that mirror his disregard for the properties he owns. His demeanor is repulsive and authoritarian, exuding an air of heartlessness. Lacking any scruples, Mr. Carlson is known for his ruthless tactics and readiness to trample over anyone who stands in his way, driven by a relentless pursuit of wealth. Beside him stood his son, Derek, a boy from Jamie's school known for his arrogance and entitlement. Completing the trio was a large, menacing pit bull, its leash held loosely in Derek's hand. "Looking for your parents," Mr. Carlson grumbled, his eyes sweeping past Mia to the modest interior of the apartment. "They're never around. Anyway, I'm here to make sure you got this." He waved an eviction notice menacingly. "They're working as always," Mia replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "We got the notice." Mr. Carlson's gaze fell on the torn newspapers and scattered belongings. "This place is a mess. You kids know you can't have pets in here, right? I heard a cat." "We don't own any animals," Jamie piped up defiantly, standing beside his sister. The pit bull, picking up on a scent, began to growl and tug at its leash. Derek, smirking, barely held on to it. "Looks like boss smells something. What's hidden, huh?" Before Mia could respond, the dog broke free from Derek's weak grasp. It charged into the apartment, sniffing and pawing through their belongings, overturning a chair in its frenzy. Derek laughed, not making any move to control the dog. "Go on, boss. Find it." His laughter filled the cramped space, adding to the chaos. Mr. Carlson shook his head, muttering about additional fees for pet damage. "You'll be paying for any mess that cat makes, understand?" Jamie stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. "It's your dog that's destroying our home," he shouted, his voice cracking. Mia grabbed his arm, trying to pull him back. "Rich boy here doesn't need to care where his dog goes, does he?" Mia spat out, her fear turning into frustration. "Just like you don't care about throwing us out onto the streets." Derek, leaning against the doorway, sneered. "Maybe if you weren't so poor, you could afford a better place, huh? Or at least train your secret pets better." The tension escalated as the dog continued its rampage, sniffing each corner for the elusive Whisker, who remained hidden. Finally, Mr. Carlson pulled out his phone, dialing a number. "I'm calling animal control. And your parents. This mess will be added to your eviction charges." As the adults argued, Jamie and Mia exchanged a worried glance. They needed a plan, and fast. Whisker, from his hiding spot, seemed to sense this too. As the noise continued, the cat suddenly darted out from behind the sofa, agile and swift, his movements a blur as he slipped out the slightly ajar door. "Whisker!" Jamie cried out, but the cat was already gone, disappearing into the shadowy hallway. Derek laughed harder. "Look at that. The ghost cat. Too bad it won't save you from the streets." Mia clenched her fists, her anger boiling over. "Just go, Derek. Take your dog and get out." Eventually, Mr. Carlson and Derek, with a still agitated pit bull, left the apartment, leaving behind a mess and a threat hanging over the siblings' heads. Jamie and Mia quickly cleaned up, their minds racing with worry for Whisker and their family's future. "I can't believe this," Mia said as she righted a fallen lamp. "We need to find that treasure, Jamie. It's our only chance now." Jamie nodded, determination setting in. "We'll find Whisker first. Then we'll find the treasure. For us and for him." As the night grew deeper, the stakes had never been higher. The siblings knew that their adventure had just turned into a critical mission, not just to save their home, but to keep their family and Whisker together. The city's nocturnal glow cast long shadows as Mia, Jamie, and Whisker ventured deeper into its hidden corners. Each destination Whisker chose seemed part of a complex puzzle only he could see, leading them over rooftops dusted with starlight and through alleyways draped in mystery. "Okay, Whisker, where to next?" Jamie asked, half joking as they paused at an intersection of two particularly shadowy streets. Whisker, with a dramatic flick of his tail, darted left, causing Jamie to chuckle. "Guess it's left then. He's like a furry compass." As they rounded a corner, Mia raised the topic of the dog they now knew as the Beast. "That dog is a nightmare. I heard Mr. Carlson calling him that, and it fits." At the mention of the Beast, Whisker stopped and unsheathed his claws, slicing the air in a mock attack. "Even Whisker's got his battle moves ready," Mia laughed, watching the cat's theatrical display. "Yeah, and every time Derek talks about that dog at school, it's like he's bragging about a new sports car." "Oh, look at my beast of a dog. Isn't he terrifying? Makes me sick." Jamie mimicked Derek's pompous tone, rolling his eyes exaggeratedly. "He comes to school just to show off his latest gadgets. Acts like he owns the place," Jamie continued, his voice dripping with disdain. As they shared a light-hearted moment of sibling solidarity, Whisker suddenly picked up the pace, his sleek form slipping through the night like a shadow. The siblings hurried after him, intrigued and slightly breathless from the chase. To their astonishment, Whisker halted in front of a large, imposing mansion with gates that seemed to whisper secrets of wealth and power. "Wait, isn't this?" Mia started, her voice trailing off as a sleek car pulled up to the mansion. The door opened, and out stepped Mr. Carlson, their landlord, confirming their suspicions. "Great! Of all the places, Whisker brings us to the lion's den," Mia muttered under her breath. As they hid behind a nearby bush, pondering their next move, the ominous growl of the Beast filled the air. The massive dog appeared, sniffing the ground, its senses on high alert for any intruders, particularly feline ones. "Shoot, what do we do now?" Jamie whispered, his eyes wide as the dog began to move closer to their hiding spot. Mia rummaged through her backpack, her fingers closing around the bag of dog treats. "On my mark, get ready to run in the opposite direction," she instructed Jamie with a calm she didn't feel. As the beast neared, Mia threw a handful of treats to the left, far from where Whisker crouched. The dog, ever eager for food, bolted after them without a second thought.
Now,
Mia hissed, and they sprinted to the right, Whisker darting ahead with agility that belied his usual composure. Breathing heavily, they watched from a safer distance as the beast devoured the treats, momentarily distracted from its guard duties. "Well, at least we know how to distract a beast," Jamie joked, trying to lighten the mood. "Yeah, with a beast's appetite," Mia replied, a smile tugging at the corner of her mouth despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. Their laughter was a brief reprieve from the tension, a moment of levity in an evening filled with shadows and dangers. As they regrouped, their minds raced with questions about the mansion, Mr. Carlson, and what secrets it might hold that could be key to their treasure hunt. As the siblings and Whisker regrouped in a quieter part of the neighborhood, far from the mansion's intimidating silhouette, they began to piece together their findings. Mia laid out the clues on the pavement like a makeshift detective's board. "So, we have the word treasure, and then there's this mansion," she said, pointing to a sketch Jamie had drawn of Mr. Carlson's opulent home. "What are you saying, Whisker?" she asked, looking expectantly at the cat. Jamie, always the more adventurous one, chimed in with growing excitement. "Maybe we should look for the treasure right here in Mr. Carlson's mansion." He glanced at Mia and Whisker, hoping for approval. Whisker, however, meowed sharply, his tail flicking in what seemed like disapproval. Mia nodded at Whisker's response, her expression serious. "We are not criminals, Jamie. And besides, we can't just break into someone's house. That's not how we do things." Jamie's face fell slightly, the excitement fading into frustration. "Okay, so what do we do?" he asked, his voice tinged with disappointment. Mia took a deep breath, looking from the sketch to Whisker, who sat calmly, almost as if he understood the gravity of their conversation. "We go home. Mom and Dad will be home soon, and we have more explanations to give them than we can manage right now." Jamie kicked at a small stone, sending it skittering across the street. "It just feels like we're so close, you know?" His voice was low, filled with the weight of their predicament. "I know," Mia responded, her tone softening. "But let's think this through properly. We need a plan that doesn't involve breaking any laws. Maybe there's another way to find out what Mr. Carlson is hiding without going into his house." The walk back home was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. Whisker trotted alongside them, his presence a silent reassurance. As they approached their apartment building, the lights from their parents' usual late-night return flickered in the distance, a beacon in the dark. As Mia and Jamie neared their home, they decided to keep their secret quest just between themselves. The weight of their discovery felt too heavy, and they worried about adding stress to their parents' already burdened lives. The apartment was dimly lit and silent when they entered, a sign their parents were still at work. Knowing they had the place to themselves for a few more hours, they quickly cleaned up from their night's adventure, their minds racing with thoughts of clues and hidden treasures. Whisker, sensing the comfort and safety of the apartment, explored each corner with a newfound curiosity. The siblings watched him with a mix of amusement and affection. "He's really taken to this place, hasn't he?" Mia remarked, watching Whisker nuzzle against a pile of old blankets they had set up for him. "Yeah, looks like he's part of the family now," Jamie replied, his tone light, but his eyes reflecting the deeper bond they had already formed with the cat. It wasn't long before they heard the familiar sound of keys in the door. Their parents arrived home, looking tired but relieved to be back in the warmth of their family space. Mia quickly went to greet them, Whisker following close behind. "Mom, Dad, this is Whisker," she introduced the cat, who looked up at the adults with his intelligent eyes. He's going to be staying with us." Their mother, setting down her bag, knelt to meet Whisker, her expression softening as she stroked his fur. "Well, hello there," she said gently, a smile spreading across her face. "Looks like you've already made yourself quite comfortable." Mia then took a deep breath, the weight of the eviction notice pressing on her mind. We also got this today," she said, handing the notice to her mother. The change in her mother's demeanor was immediate, her smile fading into a frown as she read the document. Yet, she looked up at her children, her expression firm yet kind. "We'll figure this out, okay? We always do." Not wanting to dampen the slightly uplifted spirits by the introduction of Whisker, she folded the notice and set it aside. "For now, let's welcome Whisker properly into our family. He's one of us now, and we'll face everything together as a family." Whisker, perhaps understanding the gravity of the moment, or simply enjoying the affection, purred loudly, rubbing against each family member in turn. The siblings exchanged a glance, a silent agreement passing between them. They would keep the secret of their quest to themselves for now, protecting their parents from further worry until they had a solid plan or, hopefully, a solution. As the family settled down for the night, Whisker found his place at the foot of Mia and Jamie's beds, alternating between the two, as he had done before. The sense of family, of unity against the challenges ahead, filled the room with warmth. In that quiet, comforting end to the day, Mia and Jamie felt a renewed sense of hope. With Whisker by their side and a secret adventure unfolding, they felt ready to face whatever challenges the coming days might bring. As the family gathered in the living room for a rare movie night, Whisker took center stage in a way that left everyone in stitches. The film featured a dramatic scene where the protagonist whispered secrets about a hidden treasure. At each mention of the word treasure, Whisker would perk up, tilt his head, and meow loudly, as if trying to contribute to the conversation. "Look at him. He's probably trying to give us tips on where to find our own treasure," Jamie chuckled, tossing a popcorn kernel towards Whisker, who expertly caught it midair. "Or maybe he's critiquing the plot," Mia added, laughing. "Whisker, do you think they got it all wrong?" Whisker responded with a dramatic roll, flipping onto his back and pawing at the air, which only made the family laugh harder. "Mia, I think he agrees with you," their father said with a grin, watching the cat's theatrical display. "He's definitely got some opinions on this story." Their mother nodded, amusement twinkling in her eyes. "He's more than just a cat, you know. Sometimes, I swear he understands everything we say." As the movie continued, Whisker remained an active participant, occasionally meowing at poignant lines and even hissing at the villain, much to the family's delight. His presence turned an ordinary night into an interactive experience, full of laughter and shared looks of disbelief at their cat's timely reactions. The next day, as Mia prepared for school, she noticed her history book left open on the kitchen table. As if on cue, Whisker jumped onto the table, his paws landing on a picture of an ornate, ancient necklace. What do you think, Whisker? Does this look like something we should be searching for? Mia joked, watching the cat stare intently at the image. Whisker leaned forward, sniffed the page, and then, as if making a decision, sat down, neatly covering the picture with his body. Well, I guess that settles it. Whisker has claimed his treasure. Mia laughed, reaching over to scratch behind his ears. Thanks for your input, Professor Whisker. Later that night, as the family discussed their weekend plans over breakfast, Whisker once again showed his uncanny ability to be part of the conversation. Whenever they mentioned going out, he would trot over to the door and sit, tail wrapped neatly around his feet, as if ready to lead the way. Looks like Whisker is ready for another adventure. He's got his travel pose all figured out, Jamie observed, amused by the cat's antics. Every explorer needs a good guide, and it looks like we've got the best one, Mia added, smiling down at Whisker, who seemed to puff up with pride at her words. As the siblings settled into their room for the evening, the day's earlier discoveries and Whisker's uncanny behavior fueled their determination to continue the treasure hunt. The prospect of sneaking out and facing the unknown was daunting, but exhilarating. Jamie was the first to break the silence. So, how do we proceed? Just follow Whisker again? What if we end up back at Mr. Carlson's mansion or run into that smug son of his and his beast of a dog? Mia, who had been jotting down notes in a small journal, looked up thoughtfully. We need a better plan, something that keeps us safe, but lets us follow Whisker's lead. He knows something we don't, but darting all over the city after a cat is not exactly discreet or easy. That's for sure. Jamie laughed, remembering their last escapade. I'm all for adventure, but I'm not cut out for all that climbing and sneaking around in the dark. Mia smiled, tapping her pen against the notebook. What if we could track him? Like they do in those wildlife documentaries. We could use a GPS tracker, attach it to his collar, and then monitor his route from a phone or a computer. Jamie's eyes widened with excitement. That's brilliant. We can see where he goes without following him through every alley and over every rooftop. But where do we get a GPS tracker? We can save up a bit, or maybe there's a pet store that would let us rent one, Mia suggested, already scrolling through her phone for information. After some research and pooling their limited funds, they acquired a small, lightweight GPS tracker designed for pets. They carefully attached it to Whisker's collar, ensuring it was secure and comfortable for him. Whisker seemed indifferent to his new accessory, more interested in the treats Mia offered as a distraction. Now we set up the tracking app on my tablet, Mia explained as she synced the device with the GPS-C. We can monitor his movements in real time. If he stops somewhere unusual, we can check it out the next day, at a reasonable hour. Without the beast breathing down our necks, Jamie added, relieved. For the next few nights, they watched Whisker's nocturnal journeys from the safety of their home. The GPS tracker showed his path clearly, highlighting stops and marking significant locations. The GPS tracker showed his path clearly, highlighting stops and marking significant locations. Whisker's route was surprisingly methodical, circling certain areas that seemed unrelated at first, but gradually began to form a pattern. Look, he keeps returning to these 3 spots: the old fountain in the park, near the library, and this weird little alley behind the bakery, Mia pointed out on the digital map. Yeah, and none of those places are anywhere near Mr. Carlson's mansion, which is good news for us, Jamie noted, tracing the route with his finger. "Let's plan to visit these spots tomorrow after school. We can take photos and look around for anything unusual." Armed with their new plan and the technological aid, the siblings felt a renewed sense of purpose. The GPS tracker not only allowed them to keep up with Whisker's agile explorations, but also helped refine their search, making the treasure hunt less about risky midnight chases and more about intelligent, targeted investigations. As they prepared for their expeditions, Mia and Jamie felt more like true adventurers than ever before, using every tool at their disposal to uncover the secrets that Whisker seemed so eager to show them. Their adventure was shaping up to be more than just a wild cat chase. It was becoming a clever quest that might just lead them to something extraordinary. After school, armed with curiosity and a healthy dose of anticipation, Mia and Jamie met at the park. The old fountain, now dry and covered in ivy, was their first checkpoint. They circled it, searching every nook and crevice. "Maybe Whisker thinks we need a wish to find this treasure," Jamie joked, peering into the empty basin of the fountain. "Sure, toss in a coin and make a wish for a map," Mia replied with a smirk, nudging a loose stone with her foot. But nothing there seemed out of the ordinary, just old leaves and the echo of water long gone. Their next stop was near the library, a grand old building with stone gargoyles perched on its roof, overlooking the city. They scanned the area, but again, nothing caught their eye except for a few curious squirrels. Feeling a bit disheartened but not ready to give up, they headed to the last location Whisker had marked, the weird little alley behind the bakery. The smell of fresh bread lingered in the air as they turned the corner and stumbled upon an unexpected sight. There it is, an abandoned house, right in the middle of our bustling city. "How did we not know about this?" Mia said in amazement, staring at the dilapidated structure hidden from the street by overgrown bushes and a crooked fence. "It's like it's been waiting for us," Jamie said, his voice a mix of excitement and nervousness. The house looked like it had been forgotten by time, with boarded-up windows and vines creeping up its sides. Its eerie appearance would deter most, but for Mia and Jamie, it was an invitation. "Shall we?" Mia asked, gesturing toward the house with a dramatic flourish. "After you, fearless leader," Jamie replied, his tone teasing. They pushed through the creaky gate, the sound echoing slightly too loud in the quiet alley. As they approached the front door, Jamie whispered, "What if it's haunted?" Mia rolled her eyes, chuckling. "Then the ghost better help us find the treasure." The front door was slightly ajar, which they took as a welcoming sign, or as welcoming as an abandoned house could be. Stepping inside, they were greeted by a musty smell and a cool draft that sent shivers down their spines. "Hello, any treasure hiding here?" Jamie called out playfully into the darkness, his voice slightly quivering. "Just us, treasure hunters," Mia added, trying to sound braver than she felt. The inside of the house was shrouded in dust and shadows. As their eyes adjusted, they noticed old furniture covered with white sheets, giving the room a ghostly feel. Suddenly, a sheet fluttered slightly, making them both jump. "It's just the wind," Mia said, her hand on her chest. "Let's look around." They explored the ground floor, finding nothing but old newspapers and mouse droppings. Deciding to venture upstairs, they cautiously ascended the creaky steps. Each step seemed to groan under their weight, adding to the house's spooky ambience. At the top of the stairs, they found a room with the door slightly open. Pushing it, they peeked inside and saw something glinting in the afternoon light filtering through a crack in the boards. "There, what's that?" Jamie pointed. Mia stepped into the room, her heart racing. There, on the dusty floor, lay a small metal box. "Could this be it?" she whispered, reaching for the box. As she opened it, a mouse jumped out, causing them both to scream and burst into laughter. "Well, it's not treasure, but it sure is something," Jamie said between laughs, relieved but still disappointed. "Let's keep looking." "We've come this far," Mia said, her determination renewed. "This house hasn't given up all its secrets yet." Inside the dusty, shadow-filled room of the abandoned house, Mia and Jamie stood puzzling over the sudden end of Whisker's tracks. The floor was layered thick with dust except for the clear paw prints that led directly to a decrepit wall. "Look, maybe Whisker came here and is waiting for us," Mia said, her voice tinged with hope as she examined the tracks closely. Jamie, however, eyed the wall warily. "I hope he wasn't hiding out here because of a dog or some monster." The word hung heavily in the air, echoing slightly in the empty room. The wall before them looked unstable, its plaster cracked and peeling, and it vibrated faintly as if echoing distant sounds. Mia, ever the more curious of the two, pressed her ear against the cold surface. After a moment, her eyes widened. "I can hear something. It sounds like Whisker. He might be beyond this wall." Jamie quickly joined her, pressing his own ear against the wall, but he shook his head. "I can't hear anything, Mia. We better get out of here. This wall looks like it could fall on us at any moment. It's not safe." Mia stepped back, her brow furrowed in thought. "But what if Whisker is trapped? What if he needs our help?" Her voice was firm, her resolve clear despite the danger. Seeing his sister's determination, Jamie sighed, his protective instincts overruling his fear. "Okay, let's think. How can we find out what's behind this wall without the whole thing coming down on us?" Mia scanned the room, her gaze landing on a piece of broken piping. "Maybe we can use this to tap the wall, see if it sounds hollow, or if we can loosen some of the plaster safely." Armed with a pipe, they carefully tapped along the surface of the wall, listening intently after each strike. About halfway down the wall, the hollow sound they were hoping for echoed back at them. "There, did you hear that? It's hollow behind here," Mia exclaimed, her voice a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Yeah, I heard it this time," Jamie admitted, a grin breaking across his face. "So, how do we open it up without bringing the house down? Whisker, are you there?" Mia called softly into the opening. A faint meow responded, sending relief coursing through them. As Jamie and Mia detected the hollow sound behind the wall, a wave of excitement and trepidation swept through them. "Mia, open the app quickly. Let's confirm it's really Whisker on the other side, not some stray," Jamie urged, his heart racing with the thrill of the unknown. Mia fumbled with her phone, quickly launching the GPS tracking app. The screen displayed a blinking, steadfastly positioned behind the wall. "It's him. Whisker's right there," she exclaimed, a mix of relief and excitement in her voice. Emboldened by the confirmation, Jamie examined the wall more closely. His hands moved methodically over each brick, feeling for any irregularities. Suddenly, his fingers brushed against a brick that seemed looser than the others. "Mia, got something here?" With a gentle push, the brick sunk inward, releasing a faint click as if unlocking a long-sealed secret. The wall trembled slightly, then shifted, revealing a narrow, dark passage. Peering into the newly revealed room, they saw an ancient bed covered in layers of dust. Atop the bed, regally positioned as if awaiting his subjects, sat Whisker. He appeared perfectly at ease in this forgotten chamber. "Unbelievable," Mia whispered, her voice tinged with awe. "He looks like he's been ruling over this hidden kingdom for years." Whisker's eyes met theirs, shimmering with a mischievous glint that suggested he was enjoying their astonishment. He purred loudly, then playfully ducked under the bed, his tail flicking in and out of view. "Playing the mysterious prince now, aren't you?" Jamie chuckled, bending down to look under the bed. That's when he spotted it, an ornate wooden chest obscured by the shadows, its surface intricately carved with faded initials. "What's this?" "A royal treasury," Mia joked as she joined Jamie to slide the chest into the light. They lifted the heavy lid together, and their eyes widened at the sight of the treasures inside. Jewels glimmered in the dim light, and gold ingots lay in stacks, as if untouched for centuries. "Is this real? Could we have stumbled upon actual treasure?" Jamie's voice was hushed, reverent, as he picked up a gold ingot, its weight undeniable in his hands. "It has to be," Mia responded, equally mesmerized. "But how are we going to get this out of here? It's way too heavy to carry. We'll need to come back with the right tools. We can't just haul a chest of gold through the city streets," Jamie reasoned, already plotting their next steps. As they prepared to leave, Jamie glanced back at Whisker, who had emerged from under the bed and was now sitting proudly beside the open chest. "For a cat, you've got quite the knack for uncovering lost treasure," he said, admiration coloring his tone. "And he's just elevated himself from mere pet to grand treasure guardian," Mia added with a laugh, scooping Whisker into her arms. "Seems we've got ourselves a furry master of mystery." As Mia, Jamie, and Whisker prepared to leave the hidden room, Whisker's behavior suddenly changed. His fur bristled, and his claws unsheathed, an unmistakable sign of threat. "Mia, someone's coming. Quick, let's not hide under the bed," Jamie whispered urgently. They barely managed to conceal themselves behind a large wardrobe when the door creaked open. The owner of the building, Mr. Carlson, entered the room, his son and their dog, the Beast, in tow. Mr. Carlson carried a large suitcase, which he placed on the ground with a satisfied thump. "Look, son, this is how wealth accumulates. Little by little," Mr. Carlson said, gesturing toward the chest under the bed. "But father, isn't it risky to leave them here? This building is so old," the son questioned, his voice filled with doubt. "This building has belonged to our family for generations. No one but us knows about this place," Mr. Carlson explained with a wave of his hand, dismissing the concern. "But isn't a bank safer?" the son persisted, his curiosity not yet sated. "What you keep saying, son," Mr. Carlson chided, irritation creeping into his voice. "This is the safest place, believe me." As they spoke, the Beast became increasingly agitated, sniffing around and pulling towards the chest. In a sudden burst of anger, Mr. Carlson shoved the dog aside. "I will keep you tied up at home for a month. Do you dare to destroy my treasure?" he shouted. The siblings trembled in their hiding spot, praying not to be discovered. The dog's growls grew louder, and it started to bark ferociously, its nose inching closer to the bed under which they had been hiding moments ago. Just then, Whisker darted out from their hideout, his escape drawing the dog's attention. The beast chased after him with fervor. "You see, he felt something. Let him catch it. Finish it once," the son encouraged, a grim excitement in his voice. "How did the cat get in here?" Mr. Carlson whispered to his son, his voice barely audible. "Maybe it's not as safe a place as you say," added Derek. "Shut up, I'm thinking," Mr. Carlson snapped at his son. "Let's go tonight. We have to find another place to move the treasure from here." Meanwhile, Whisker, with the beast hot on his heels, managed to escape the building. He swiftly climbed a nearby tree and then onto the roof, beyond the reach of the frustrated dog. Below, the dog barked loudly, jumping futilely as it tried to follow. Mr. Carlson, now visibly angered by the day's events and the dog's failure, scolded the animal harshly. "You are good for nothing. Today you get no food. You can't even scare off a small cat." As Mr. Carlson and his son left the room, the siblings waited a few more tense minutes before daring to breathe normally. Once the coast was clear, they emerged from their hiding spot. "That was too close," Mia gasped, her heart still racing. "Let's get out of here." "This place isn't safe anymore," Jamie said, glancing nervously towards the door. With Whisker now safely watching from the roof, and the treasure's existence confirmed but compromised, Mia and Jamie knew their adventure had just taken a dangerous turn. They needed to act fast, but wisely, as they navigated the treacherous waters of greed and deceit stirred by their discovery. The true challenge was no longer finding the treasure, it was preserving it from those who would stop at nothing to claim it. Once safely back in their own home, the reality of their discovery weighed heavily on Mia and Jamie. After a heated debate, they decided to share everything with their parents. The gravity of the situation, involving a potentially illegal hoard of treasures, was too significant to handle alone. Their parents listened in stunned silence, the severity of the situation sinking in. Together, they agreed that involving the police was the only responsible action. With careful planning, they contacted the authorities, explaining the situation and providing details about the hidden room and its illicit contents. The day Mr. Carlson planned to move his hidden assets arrived. Unbeknownst to him, the police, tipped off by Mia and Jamie's family, prepared a sting operation at the abandoned building. As Mr. Carlson and his son entered the hidden room to retrieve their suitcase and the chest, flashing police lights and stern commands to surrender greeted them. The owner's face, once confident and smug, fell into disbelief and panic as he realized his secret had been unearthed. "Mr. Carlson, you are under arrest for possession of illicit materials and suspected money laundering," the lead detective announced, as officers moved in to handcuff him and his protesting son. In the chaos, Mia and Jamie watched from a safe distance, the reality of their adventure culminating in this surreal moment of justice. They had not only found a treasure, but had also helped stop a major crime. The news of the discovery and the children's role in uncovering the illegal activities made local headlines. Lauded as heroes, Mia and Jamie were rewarded with a substantial finder's fee. The community rallied around them, their story becoming a testament to courage and integrity. With the reward money, their family was able to purchase a modest but beautiful home in a friendly neighborhood, far from the shadow of eviction that had once loomed over them. Whisker, the cat who had started it all, received his own plush bed, situated in a sunny corner of the living room. He was indeed treated like royalty, often found lounging in his new domain, a contented purr filling the room. As they settled into their new life, the family often reflected on the events that had unfolded. "Can you believe all of this started because we followed Whisker?" Mia would ask, shaking her head in wonder. "And to think he knew exactly what he was doing all along," Jamie would reply, ruffling Whisker's fur. Their parents, watching their children and Whisker in the comfort of their new home, felt a deep sense of peace and gratitude. Whisker, now more than just a pet, was a symbol of their family's resilience. As night fell, the family would gather around, recounting their adventure, each moment a building block of their strengthened bonds. In this new chapter of their lives, every day was a treasure, and every quiet evening a rich reward.